I hear this empty rhetoric demanding that Trump tone down, dial back the temperature. And I've heard this too. I heard it from the former Vice President Biden, that we stop viewing our political opponents as the enemy. We need to stop that. Kind of tough to ask that of people when you've told them that their political opposition are literal Nazis and white supremacists, don't you think? Hey, not glad to be with you, actually, under these circumstances. Just so you know, we'll be getting to everything regarding the assassination attempt, and that's what it was. That's, well, what it is on Donald Trump, President Trump, in a few moments, where we will be getting through everything that we need to kind of highlight what you need to know, claims versus truth. We'll provide all of the references. There is a lot of misinformation out there, unfortunately, and so we want this to be the definitive place where you can make sense of this. And all of this has to be based on truth, right? And I'm not going to both sides this thing today. That's not reality. The only equivalency that I see on both sides is people jumping onto this story for clickbait, regardless of accuracy. But I released a short video the day that this happened. It was immediately after the shooting, the assassination attempt had transpired. I've had time to sit and think and pray about this, and also see a lot of reactions from people. So a few things I'd like to say, and I think a lot of you are probably feeling, at least I hope so. I know everyone in my family, in my community, that I deeply value right now, they share it. And I don't know about you, but probably hugged my kids a little bit longer, kiss them a little bit harder. There's a reason for it. It's not just hyperbole. There's a reason that when these things happen, it draws you closer to the appreciation of the fragility of life. And the reason for that is because this is taking place. Someone was just a mere inch away from assuming room temperature, from being deceased, who should have the strongest security in the world. So it's natural. It's okay. I don't know if you've had a roller coaster of emotions, but we all have here. And a lot of people this weekend and today, I've seen them, and they'll continue to be calling for you to tone down your rhetoric, to bring down the temperature. I won't be doing that. I want to make that really clear. I won't be doing it because I know exactly why those in the media and those in Washington, D.C. are saying it. I know why they are demanding it. I know who it's coming from. And I also don't believe that you get to simmer and bring political violence to a boiling point, and when it backfires, publicity-wise, do the both sides thing. Now, it's important that what I'm about to say in no way be interpreted as a threat or any kind of call to physical violence, because it's not. And that's the only time I'm going to say it. So if people want to misconstrue what it is that I say here today, then fine, remove me for it. And I say this because I see people on both sides right now saying things that are simply untrue. Things like, violence has never played a role in American politics, or one that I see a lot. This is unprecedented. We hear it a lot. Let me be clear. Political violence is not unprecedented. It is literally precedented in this country. You can use both precedents and precedent. It has come before. It has happened many times. And it's been set as a precedent, deliberately. Political violence is not unprecedented in this country. People who say that either don't know what they're talking about or they're lying to you. That's not the takeaway. What is unprecedented is the impeachment, prosecution, and false conviction of a political opponent in this country who has committed no actual crimes. What is unprecedented is, far beyond political disagreements, the goal to seek and destroy a political opponent, a human being, and his supporters, even after he's peacefully left office. That's actually unprecedented in this country. As far as political violence, again, you saw my disclaimer earlier, I don't believe that violence is never acceptable or is never the answer. I won't speak in those false equivalencies, those platitudes. I think the American Revolution was a good thing. I think ending slavery was a good thing. Those necessitated political violence. And let's be clear, too. When we have disagreements in this country, people say, we can have respectful disagreements. If you're having a disagreement about abortion, you're talking about violence. You have a disagreement over the violence. If we have a disagreement over foreign policy as it relates to wars, you're having a disagreement over violence, over killing. It's all around us. Now, I do believe that political violence, of course, is a last resort and a tool only to be used against tyranny. I would argue a presidential candidate who wants less government and to recognize more of your individual rights certainly doesn't qualify, Charlie. And I hear this empty rhetoric demanding that Trump tone down, dial back the temperature. And I've heard this too. I heard it from the former Vice President Biden, that we stop viewing our political opponents as the enemy. We need to stop that. Kind of tough to ask that of people when you've told them that their political opposition are literal Nazis and white supremacists, don't you think? But I'm not going to call for that. I'm not going to call for you to stop viewing the leftists in this country as the quote-unquote enemy, plainly because I wouldn't believe in calling you to do that. I don't believe in that idea. I do believe that we have actual enemies within our ranks in this country. I really do. And I think more fruitful than empty rhetoric right now, I'd rather help you, all of us, be able to identify who those enemies actually are, because that's our only hope at actual civility. Not everyone's your friend, kumbaya, hold hands, we are the world. No. You can only have allies, and you can only protect your community and those you love if you understand the active threats, the enemy. It has to be based on truth. So, you know what? Let me be clear here. Let's first start by hopefully outlining who is not your enemy. It's not your neighbor. It's not your family members or other members of your community, the community you've chosen and hopefully take an active role in every day. Even those maybe who vote differently from you. Someone believes in higher taxes. They want longer government subsidized maternity leave or maybe some more social safety nets. They're not your enemy. They're wrong. They're not your enemy. Hell, I'd even self-identified socialists who are open about their beliefs, their disagreements with you, and who will engage in a form of ideas with you on an honest playing field. They're not your enemy. They're certainly wrong, in my opinion, but they're not your enemy. But the people out there who've been calling President Trump and people like you a Nazi or a white supremacist, they are the enemy. People who label you a fascist for being pro-life, they are the enemy. People who burned down cities and killed, murdered conservative Americans, fellow Americans at rallies, they are your enemy. The people who forced you to shut down your business, ruining your family's livelihood, never to be recovered again over a virus without you even having a say while claiming that they are doing it to save democracy, guess what? They are the enemy. And the people actively involved in shutting down, silencing political speech for protesting said lockdowns, they are the enemy. The ruling class who decided that rather than run on an even playing field to try and destroy a man's livelihood, his business, his legacy, and the remainder of President Trump's life. Because before they take his life, they try and take his name. That's what they do. Who's they? The progressive left. The hateful progressive left. Before your life is in danger, your name is what they take. People who do that, they are the enemy. Anyone who parroted the lie that Donald Trump praised neo-Nazis as very fine people for years when the footage of him condemning white supremacy and neo-Nazis totally, it was available the entire time. People who parroted that line and haven't apologized, they are the enemy. The people who lied, who aided and abetted American citizens being locked up for years over January 6th when a huge portion of them were glorified trespassers, all so that the people in charge could accuse President Trump of treason and leading an insurrection, they are the enemy. The people who accuse you of supporting trans genocide because, my God, you're against the government mandating that children be given permission to halt their puberty, they are the enemy. And you know what? Let me make this, let me put a finer point on this. I want you to take a second, okay? And in your heart of hearts, I mean this, ask yourself honestly, are you a racist? Are you a sexist? Do you hate women? Are you a transphobe, a xenophobe, a Nazi, a fascist, or a white supremacist? Are you? If the answer is genuinely no, and I assume that it is for most of you, then anyone who accuses you of the contrary, anyone who accuses you of any of those things is the enemy, especially if they do it publicly. Because let me tell you something. I've been in this industry for a very long time. The people making these accusations against President Trump, against you, they know it's not true. When they make those accusations publicly, they're not saying it for you. They're saying it for the audience. They're hoping that someone out there believes it's true about you, just as they hoped that enough people out there believed it about Donald Trump. Well, guess what? People finally did. This is what it gets you. And anyone who actively propels that forward, who accuses you of that, they don't get to ask you to dial down the temperature, to turn down your rhetoric, because they are the enemy. They make those accusations not because they believe it to be true, whether it's about you, at your office, at your PTA meeting, or President Trump. They make those accusations knowing that they are not true, hoping that someone else believes it is. And this violence that we see, this assassination attempt, is a long time coming. And by the way, it's not new. We've been surrounded by violence. I know there have been some people on the left, of course, who have faced it as well. But when it comes to the numbers, it's not even close. Some of you have a short memory. I don't know if you remember back in July, I believe it was 2016, 5 Dallas police officers were killed by a Black Lives Matter supporter. Either 2016 or 2017, I'll make the reference available. That shooter believed police were racist. Let me give you the names. Let's remember these names. Lauren Aarons, Michael Kroll, Michael Smith, Patrick Zamarripa, Brent Thompson, 5 officers, Dallas, Texas, killed because of the enemy in this country who accused, who tarred and feathered an entire profession of people as racist, genocidal maniacs. And someone believed it. Remember in June 2020, Summer of Love, David Dorn, say his name, David Dorn. He was a 77-year-old retired police captain. He was killed in St. Louis trying to stop a Black Lives Matter robbery. He also was a retired black officer. We showed the footage in the show. I believe it's one of 2 times that I've gotten misty-eyed. Someone believed the accusations against him being shouted by the enemy. In August 2020, you remember Aaron J. Danielson. This person was killed in Portland, was shot point blank. Remember that footage? We've got a Trump supporter here. Bang, bang, bang. Dead. Because in the person's mind, the shooter, whose name I will not give to you, the killer, we got a Trump supporter here, was equivalent to saying, we have a racist, Nazi, sexist, genocidal maniac here. Bang. They believed it. They believed the shouts and the echoes of the enemy. And yeah, thank God, and I mean this, thank Christ, that Donald Trump, President Trump, moved his head an inch. Sincerely. He's alive. But not everyone is. Corey Comparator. That man was killed at the Trump rally. That man was killed shielding his wife and daughter from someone firing shots, not about the gun, from an evil person attempting to murder because that person believed what the enemy within this country was saying, not only about President Trump, but about the people at his rally. That is why Casey Comparator is dead. That's why his daughter, Allison, doesn't have a dad. You don't get to say, tone down your rhetoric. The rhetoric is out there, and enough people have believed it. I want to read you, actually, what Allison Comparator wrote about her father, Facebook post. It's rare that someone writes it with this much poise and power, and that term is misused. She wrote, "Yesterday, time stopped, and when it started again, my family and I started living a real-life nightmare. What was supposed to be an exciting day that we had all looked forward to, especially my day, turned into the most traumatizing experiences someone could imagine. I know the media will cover this event, and I'm going to try my best to stay away from looking at everything, especially because I've already seen and lived through it in real time. But I want everyone to know what the media will not cover and will not say about him. He was the best dad a girl could ask for. My sister and I never needed for anything. You call, he would answer, and he would do whatever it is you needed. And if he didn't know how, he would figure out how. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and also looked after our church and our members as family. The people will not tell you that he died a real-life hero. The media is not going to tell you how quickly he threw my mom and I to the ground. They are not going to tell you that he shielded my body from the bullets that came at us. He loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. And I want nothing more than to cry on him and tell him thank you. I want nothing more than to wake up and for this not to be reality for me and my family. We lost a selfless, loving husband, father, brother, uncle, son, and friend. And I will never stop thinking about him and mourning over him until the day that I die too. June 13th will forever be a day that changed my life. I will never be the same person I was less than 24 hours ago. There were a lot of children out there who say their dad is their hero, but my dad really is mine. I don't think I would be here today without him. Dad, I love you so much that there aren't enough words to express how deep that love goes. I know you'll give heaven some hell. I know God is proud of the man that came to his gates yesterday." I don't say that just to be sappy. I say it because we need to know these names of these people. And we need to know why these names now have an end date on their tombstone. And how many more would if the enemy, meaning the progressive left, who wants to label you a Nazi, had their way. And just to be clear, these people, the comparators, they have a GoFundMe. We're going to put that link up, GoFundMe campaign for the family. And just to help out, in case I know some people, your money is tight. Some of you are thinking about joining Mug Club going into the election. Right now, if you use the promo code HERO, you get $10 off. Mug Club, $89 annually, and every single dime goes to the family, the comparators to their GoFundMe, at least for the next day of this broadcast. Use that promo code. You can join up and also support their GoFundMe. We hope that we can mail them a really big check, just like we did with David Dorn's family and Hurricane Harvey. It's one of those things where people act surprised. Genuinely, were you surprised? I've been on an emotional roller coaster. Surprise was not a feeling amongst them. This is the natural progression of what we have seen from the left, from the enemy. You cannot tell people that a man is trying to assume a dictatorship role and remove your fundamental basic freedoms, that he wants to put you in camps, lock you up, and kill. You cannot do that and then say, hey, let's tone this down. I was actually watching former Vice President Biden's speech, in which I don't believe he used the term assassination attempt, but I could be wrong. You can go and check the tape. And he was saying, I'm calling my friend Donald, and there's never a reason for this political violence. I sat there. I'm telling you, this is different from how it would have been. Take Obama, Romney. Take Barack Obama, McCain. Take George W. Bush, John Kerry, George Bush, Al Gore. If someone were to issue a statement like that in one of those races, you'd say, yeah, okay. In this case, I'm going, wait a second. You just called him a sucker and a liar and a criminal and a dictator. And that he wants to put black people back in chains, right? He wants to strip women of their rights. He wants to do away with the Constitution. You told people that this man was a convicted felon. By the way, clever move. Convict him of a felony that no one's actually been convicted of. Tell people that he's a criminal, that he's a danger, that he will end the country as we know it, and then say, but we need to dial down the temperature here. This should never happen. I talked about this the moment it happened. We used to have this ethical question, this quandary. If you could go back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? Now, the reason that it's an ethical dilemma is because, of course, you'd probably kill Hitler if you could go back in time and had a clear shot. But would you kill a baby? Juxtaposing the innocence of a baby at that point in time versus the evil that you know it will become, would you be able to kill baby Hitler? Here's why the question is not, if you could go back in time, would you kill adult Hitler? Because everyone would say yes. Every single person would say yes. Well, what do you think happens when you say that you've got new adult Hitler right now? And what do you think happens when you say that everyone who supports him or has a red baseball cap is also a Hitler supporter? You've removed the baby component. There is no ethical quandary. Would you kill Hitler? Yes. He's Hitler. People who say that, and people who've been parroting that for years, don't get to ask you to not be pissed. They don't get to tell you to stop fighting like hell. They don't get to tell you to dial down that temperature. I tell you what, I will change my rhetoric and I will retract that these people are the enemy of the American people. And I mean the Washington, D.C. entertainment industry, media industrial complex. The moment every single person who has come out and made those accusations say, I was wrong. Hey, he's not a racist. He's not a sexist. He's certainly not a fascist or a Nazi. And his voters and supporters aren't. We do not have a contingency of racism in the GOP, as we've been saying. No one wants to commit a transgenocide. That's not true. When they do that, then you can be asked to tone down your temperature. Otherwise, it's just like Hamas raping and kidnapping people on the 7th and then demanding a ceasefire. So I don't ask you to tone it down at all. I don't believe that this is a time where we all come together as a country. If you think this is irresponsible, if you think I'm wrong, that's fine. You can let me know. I think that this is a time to fight like hell. I think it's a time to recognize that this has been going on for a long time. Before they try and take your life, they take your name. They tried it, didn't work with President Trump. They're still doing it with other people. Many of you, and including yours truly, recognize what is happening before it reaches that point. And recognize the active threat and who is your actual enemy. If you, again, in your heart of hearts, know that you are not a racist, that you are not a sexist, that you are not a transgenocidist, that you are not a transphobe, insert whatever phobe or ist here. If you know that about yourself, and if you know that to be true about President Trump, or believe it to be true, but if you know it about yourself, anyone who you encounter who accuses you of being otherwise is your enemy. I hope I've been crystal clear.
Watch Louder with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.